Okay, so we are gonna do CIS27 lab 1. I originally wrote this lab for Ubuntu. So if you want to use Ubuntu, you can, but you have to make the virtual machine. But here is a good Debian virtual machine that every cybersecurity student should know. So you can visit the website, or at home, you're like, oh, I don't remember the website that she told me. You can just go open up your browser and you can go Kali download, virtual machine, download like this. And it's gonna bring you to the result where it says get Kali. You're gonna click on it. Now on the right hand side is where we're gonna find the virtual machine. You would only use the left side or if you want to install Kali on a spare computer that you have, right? Just remember that Linux will take over. So if you want to do dual boot, things like that, make sure you go through some tutorial to do that. But virtual machine is good enough, right? We can just use that for the practice. So click here on the right side and you're going to see, and this is part of our screenshot on the lab. I would use the recommended, and this is the 2024.4 version. So we're going to go ahead and click the download button, and it's going to take a little bit to download. So we can save it to downloads. Now, if you're using VMware, Hyper-V, or QEMU, you can get the other versions, but make sure that you have the proper hypervisor to play the virtual machine. So with this, I would need VirtualBox app, as I mentioned to some of you that want to do this on your laptop or on your MacBook or whatever at home. You need to install VirtualBox app, and that's from Oracle, okay? And 7-zip for the extraction. So once I have the download, I'm gonna go find it, okay? So here is my system. I can go to my folder or go to this PC and then find downloads. When it's done, it's going to show up here, and this might take a little bit of time. So during this time, I'm going to preview your lab. So we first visit the website. We're going to download the virtual machine that we need, okay? Once that's downloaded, open up our downloads folder, and we need to extract it. So the common mistake in all my classes is that students always try to run the virtual machine from the zip folder. Do not open the virtual machine file from the zip folder because it's going to generate an error. This is why we need to extract it. Just think about it this way, right? You have a blanket, you put it into those vacuum seal pack, and you shrink it into a small pack. Okay, can you use a blanket? No, right? When you need to use it, you need to open it and extract it. The same thing with the file, because when you compress it, it changes the file header structure. Okay, so the system won't be able to access the complete file as it's meant where it's stored. So what you need to do is you need to extract it first and open up the folder that's extracted. Doesn't have a zip icon or a 7 icon, a plain folder. Let me repeat that. Use an unzip file in an extracted folder to open, right? Because that's a common problem with a lot of the students in the classes. They tried to do that. So now let's check to see if our file is finished. Why is it slow for you guys too?
Yeah.
Oh, the network is slow today. Anyway, okay. So once we have that extracted, there are two ways that you can open the file. You can double click the folder that's extracted and double click the blue icon file. And it's going to automatically run the application and load it into the player. But if you open up the player, you can add it. So I put down the step, open up the app, click on the machine menu, click the add button, which is the green plus sign, and you should be able to navigate to your extracted folder and find your VBox file. It's going to be a blue cube icon. Now, there's going to be two files in that folder, the blue icon file and the the orange icon file. The blue icon file is your virtual machine file, your virtual box file. Now, the orange file is the disk. That's the storage of that particular virtual machine, okay? So you only need to run the blue icon file and it should be able to load Kali Linux. We're on fiber in this lab or this classroom. Maybe it's this particular server. I should have remembered to tell you guys to download before. Let me try again. It should be like minutes. If it's slower than my home, then something is wrong. Ah. Okay. So while that's doing its thing, let's talk about this part. So for part B, so after you open up your Kali and you boot up your Kali, you're gonna use the command line of it. I emphasize the usage of command line a lot in the class because this is what you're gonna be using in the field. Okay, we're running into the same problem again, right? So right click, remove only. Okay, show me where you see your file, extracted it.
Supposed to be down.
Let's go there. Okay, so we're not opening the extracted folder. Where's the extracted folder? This, okay. Okay. I'm not getting my downloads down. Okay, so for part B, you're going to use your terminal. And in Linux, you might see, and also in operating system class, they always talk about the kernel. So kernel in OS is where it's going to load the system memory. It control your system storage area, like your disk management, memory allocation, system processes, interrupt handler. And malware loves, there are malicious file that would impact kernel, even in Mac OS I've seen, right? So kernel is important. What we want to do is we can use the uname dash option A. That's gonna show you the kernel that you use. So if you wanted to check to see the type of operating system, it's best to find its kernel information by using uname in Linux, right? And so when you do that, you should be able to get a screenshot. And I'm still not able to download. Hmm? Yeah, this one is for the 7. And this one is Oracle. Yeah, I'm not getting. It's 3.2 gigs. It should not be that long. I should have kept my. Yeah, I have this. So hopefully it's going to be able to open. So let me pause. It shows that the other one is 9 hours. Well, you got like dedicated servers and other servers that pick up the alternative. So let's see if this one is going to open up in 43 seconds. Okay, thank you for reminding me to look there. All right. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna mostly work with the terminal. Now, whenever that you see like an error and it tells you you don't have the privilege or the permissions, right? That's what you see is the sudo. Okay, so you're gonna use sudo super user do. So you're gonna elevate your access level to the higher level by doing that. So when you're doing DMESG command, this is going to allow you to look at boot log. So what am I teaching you here is to use command to be able to, number one, investigate your kernel or your OS. Number two, to look at possible error in the boot log. So if you access the boot log in the case that you have like boot error or issues with your boot for your Linux servers, so once that happens, you're going to go to the .log file. So for Linux, the log file is really simple. It's .log compared to Windows where it would be the extension for the application. Something went wrong. Are you serious? All right, sorry. Just Murphy Law today. Okay. Everybody okay? Downloaded, extracted, and played? Proceed. Oh yeah, it's still down. Yeah, so right click. So once you have the folder, right click, right? Show more options. And then you're gonna go to 7-zip and extract file. You paste it onto the lab document. Yeah, so you just add it to your document, and when you're done answering and adding the screenshot, you submit. It's a bin. So we'll check with IT tomorrow why it's going so slow. We didn't have this problem at Parkside, right? Remember? Super fast. They moved my fiber box over here and look at my storage. Okay. It's not right. I'm crying about something that cannot be changed. Yeah, it says something went wrong, and then maybe because I closed, I canceled it. I'm impatient. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about command line while we wait. Okay, so when we look at the boot log, right, it might ask you to put in the password because whenever you use sudo, it wants to validate your credential. And then when you're using command line cat, cat stands for concatenation, but cat can be used to do two things. We can use the cat with the arrow to create a file, or we can use a cat with the file name to read. So if I want the system to show me the content of that log file, I simply use a cat command, right? There's other commands you can use to open file as well. But when you're using grep, think of that as a filter search, right? When you grep error, what you mean is you're looking for error, right, in that log file. So when it's searched, now if you see nothing pop up, that's just great. You have no error. But if you have error in that boot file, it's going to show the error that's listed. So a good way for you to read the content of the file and filter out the things that you need is you use a cat command, the file name, and a pipe. Okay, this separates two commands, the pipe, that straight line called pipe, and you would use the grep to filter out what you're looking for. This is important to read logs because you're gonna have a log file that has like 1,000 of entries, and you need to filter it to streamline your work. Okay, so I'm teaching you that. So if you don't see any error, you can say no error, right? If nothing shows up, if there's error, it's gonna show up in red or color-coded error. Okay. Depending on the OS, yeah. All right, it's done. All right. So once I download it, right click, show more options, and go to 7-zip. Again, this only exists if you install 7-zip, okay? So at home or on your laptop, you have to do that. And then we're gonna click extract files and click OK. Again, right click, show more options, 7-zip, extract files, and then OK. And it's gonna put the unzip folder. You see, there's no zip icon or 7 icon. This is where your VirtualBox is gonna live. Okay. Now it is a state machine, so as soon as you modify it, it's gonna change the log for it. So when it's finished extracting, which is it did, you're gonna open this up, open up the folder that's extracted, its subfolder, and look for the blue icon. You're gonna double click. Okay, so think of this like a playlist. If your thing show error, you're gonna right click, go to remove, and remove only. Do not remove all. It's gonna delete everything you downloaded and extracted. Okay, but I'm here. It shows power off. I'm gonna click start. And you can also change the setting to give it more RAM, to give it more processor core. I like VBox. VBox is easy to use, easier than some of the others. Okay, so this is what Kali looks like. Okay, when it loads. Now, if you have a Raspberry Pi, you can go to Kali website. You can also run Kali on IoT. I have a couple Raspberry Pi. When I go to the high school, I bring that sometimes to show them. And you can make it into a little, you know, lunch box or something, which I have. Done. There's error. All of those are error. To read, right? Okay, so let's log in Kali, Kali. Same thing for password. And if you see the little notification, you can click the small blue X to kind of expand. So your command line is this black box icon. That's your terminal. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit so we can see. Okay. Now, Kali is cool because you can copy and paste command, but they are short. Type your command. Yes. Because you're using Edge and it's in your phone, right? You see? Yeah, it's not. So, since so here I'm going to put it on the desk. Okay. Because when you use Edge, this is why Microsoft puts it onto a chemical, but it's why you should use other ones. Yeah, so we're going to cut it. Okay. I'm going to know where you are. I'll go here and then go like this. So when it shows aborted, that means that your file is either corrupted or not accessible. Right?
Actually, help down here.
Then you can get off the playlist. Yeah, so what happens is
There's a variety of ways.
yeah, I found a YouTube
Good.
before. Yeah, just use. Because if you, but if you use Edge, you use the link, just pick up the same as. And then save it to the S. Because if you don't hit save as, it doesn't
It
save
doesn't take
to the, it puts it in the top, it's there. But, you know, so just put the Cali download.
Needs to go in, get you. Yeah, so, pretty much fills out the stuff.
Before you started, like, sorry, when you were ready to do that,
That's what I was gonna ask.
yeah, I'm more like the part of the building,
Yeah.
and I'm like, really, it's all.
It's,
No, I don't.
you do it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times.
I just finished an intro class. My last, and you're me, what, you're on these reverse sounds, it's gonna be like, easy.
No, I dropped.
Like, the rest of it, like, network engineering.
Yeah.
And this class is just like a bit of the core. I know it's a bit bigger. Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of the councils don't even hear.
Yeah.
Like one of my buddies, graduated from back, CLA. And then some people, they're having some of these courses. And you can add it to this list of this way. You even have the list for.
That's great. You actually need to have to do it.
Yeah, good, good. I'll help you. Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah, let's go to 14.
Can you do, no, like, go to your, back to your browser. Download another one, have you do Chrome, download it and make sure you save it. Because what happened is when you extract it to desktop, something had happened to the original file. Where it's not.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so download it with Chrome and save it into your downloads folder in the middle. Yeah. Show me where your zip files. Or where you download, where's your Cali? Where's the original, that one? So. Re-extract this one, Michael? Yeah, so go back to your downloads, okay, delete this folder. Yeah, you have to get it out of the, close the application. It's not. What's up?
Yeah, I just need a, help with the jail thing. No, I'm not really.
Okay, so that download,
Yeah, I did.
where is it at? Downloads. Not there.
Over here.
Okay, view, wait, slow down. Okay, go to the CN folder. Okay, it's there, so I want you to right click it. Copy. You're gonna,
Where?
that copy, and then go to your desktop
What do you mean?
or downloads, go to downloads, and then paste it there. Cause when you use Edge, it doesn't, yeah. Okay, and then once that happens, right, you have to click save as in Edge. Right click, show more options. And then 7-zip, and then extract file. Click OK. Look at your lab instructions.
Oh, so I can do it while it's downloading?
You have to look at the instruction as you do that, right? So I just walked you through 1 and 2, okay?
I clicked on Russ.
Okay, give me a second, once I get the command going. No, you need to get 7-zip and extract files. Only use 7-zip because it's a 7-zip file. Okay, so show more options, 7-zip extract files. Are we okay with getting virtual machine on? Are we still stuck with certain virtual machine? If you do that, let me know so we can fix it. Okay, over here.
I didn't have VMware down, when I went to go download it on this computer, it wasn't able to execute the SBIN VBox config file as it is. I'd never seen that before.
I don't use VMware, but you
It was-
VMware that needs support
It was
box.
VMware or
So, if you never used virtualization before, you have to activate the chip for virtualization. Yeah, that has to be filed. Okay, who else? Okay, you have VirtualBox? All everything already? Open up your VirtualBox. Did you extract your Kali file already? No, that's not. Okay, where's your Kali? So maybe open up 7-zip. Open up 7-zip. And then open up the file. All right, okay. Okay, one more, that's it, I have to move on, right? Yes,
Buddy's fight.
yes, I have to move on.
Borderline.
All right,
Buddy,
open up, click that.
Hey, buddy, no, we're like 1920 gangsters.
It is that. Then the blue part. Okay, follow the instructions for those of you who are catching up with running your VM. Okay, so once you're in your VM, log in, right? And open up your terminal, which is here. And it's gonna look like this. Look at your path, you're in Kali, and home is kind of like documents for that user. Everything that you save, default to home here. File system is like this PC. It's gonna show you the storage, the drive, the things that all the directories inside the system. So what I'm gonna do is I need to come back here and I need to run the uname-a. So you type uname. If your command is correct, it's gonna change the font to blue and you're gonna do a space A. Okay? It tells you the kernel is Kali and the release, right? Which is correct because that's what we use. And here, basically, it tells you like when it was created and so on. So that's a good way for you to check OS option for OS kernel. So how do I do a screenshot? if you're using your laptop, if you use Windows, but for the PC, I normally use Snip. So you can open up Snip in Windows, and in MacBook and the others, you have similar thing where you can just drag and clip it, right? So Snip is a tool that you can just cut part of your screen and paste it to something else. So search for Snip, click new, and then drag what you want to copy or cut, right? And then go to your document. Under that screenshot, we're gonna Control V or paste. And it's gonna go like this. We can change the size to smaller. So I have a screenshot. The purpose of this is when you look back in your lab in the future, you're gonna see what you did there, right? What it shows. You know, and for me, that would show that you did that step. Okay. So again, you can use Snip and then click new, drag it, and then paste it into your document. You can create a whole new document for it, but it's probably ideal to put it on here. Next, what we're gonna do is we are going to put in this command. Remember we talked about the boot log? So we're gonna do a sudo super user. If I just type in DMESG like this, likely that I'm gonna get, right? If I don't have the privilege, it might give me the information here. So you are gonna get a bunch of different things. But what we want is we want to get this data into a file, like be more organized with what you need to find. Imagine if you have to go line by line and read this, it's gonna take a long time. So we're gonna pull all of this data using the command, the same command, but put it into a .log file. So what I did was I typed in this command and it's gonna give me a bunch of data here, right? About my boot of my system. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and instead of using that, I'm gonna do super user do, elevate my privilege, and do DMESG. And when you do an arrow key, all of that does is I'm gonna pull up this data and then put it into a .log file. So DMESG .log. You don't have to have a space or a space. It should be fine. Okay, it's gonna ask you for the password. And if we type in the password correctly, everything that was here is condensed into a file. Oh, you changed it.
Yeah.
You okay
What?
over there?
I'm done with it.
All right,
How do I get there?
how do you get here?
Yeah.
Did you have your Kali open?
No, it closed.
So you need to reopen your Kali? The one with that, the zip icon. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, because it
So,
opened
yeah.
and then just shut down after everything out. So where is it?
Okay. So if you are still working in the prior steps, right, look at part A and it will get you to where Kali needs to load. Okay, so what I did was I did step 3 and I got my log file. Now I gotta go read it. Okay. So if you work for a company and they said, you know, we suspect that there's some kind of kernel rootkit things happening on this Linux server, go here. This is what you do, right? You look at your kernel information to determine the version of the Linux, and then you're gonna pull the log file for the boot, and so you can see, put it into a .log file, and then we're gonna read it now, right? So we're gonna do a cat command, and we're going to read the file. So we're gonna do step 5, cat DMESG.log. If you type in the right name, it's gonna bold it for you, right? If it's not bolded, that means you have a typo or there's a mismatch in the name. And then you're gonna do a pipe, and this is gonna be a shift with the key above enter key. We are going to grep error. So when you're using grep, that allows you to filter, as we talked about. We're only gonna look for error in that file. And I have no error, great, right? If it shows blank like this, that means you don't have an error in your boot, okay? Now, that can be different in different version of Linux. Okay, any question? Okay, so what we did there is, and then screenshot that, right? So, oh, sorry, before you screenshot, is there any error? You answer, there's no for me. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we are going to look at the loaded modified files in the kernel, your system files that are loaded. So we're gonna do a sudo ls mod, and then arrow, we're gonna put that also in a .log file. Oops. Okay. And once that's successful, what we're gonna do next, we're gonna go read it, right? So we're gonna do a cat ls mod, and we're gonna grep HDA. You guys know what HDA stands for? First hard drive. That's what Linux is, the first partition or section of your that OS sees. So we're gonna filter, right? We're just gonna look at the system files that's pertaining to the HDA that's been modified. So we're gonna do the ls mod for that. And it, oh, sorry. I forgot the file extension. I just harp about. Okay, so nothing also, right? You're like, there's nothing to see, right? That's a good thing. You don't have any kind of changes. You don't have any kind of error. That's a good thing. And then what we're gonna do is we are going to screenshot this. And then now we're gonna look at USB devices. So you can do sudo lusb. And then we're gonna point that to lsusb.log. I like to keep my file name matching with the command, so it's easy for me to find. That's just an approach that I use. You don't have to use that. You can name it however that would be easier for you. And then once you have the log files, you're gonna be able to read it. Now, if you want to read the entire file, you don't have to grep, right? So we're gonna do lsusb.log. And there's only 2 entry in that file, so great, right? We can just read it real quick. It tells me that there is VirtualBox USB and the Linux Foundation root hub for the USB. That's default for the Linux OS. You have to do the complete command in one line. So Control C. Click in your virtual machine and press Control C. And repeat. Do it in one line and press enter.
So what kind of devices are we gonna find in our LSUSB?
In a regular box with the Linux like virtual server, depending on how many USB ports you have, or it could be a logical port, like a virtual machine.
Right, because we have VirtualBox here, but that's not actually plugged in.
Right. So it sees it as, because you can't enable that. You can connect the USB and enable that one. So in a regular box, whatever the USB port that's enabled, configured enable, it's gonna find. Yeah.
No, mine doesn't look like that.
Mhm.
Mine doesn't look like that. Am I supposed to do something?
Do you have the instruction for the lab? Oh, wait, your growth is bad. You extracted this, right? Yeah, it's not loading your OS. Let's. Finish, and then you're gonna get that folder. And then you're gonna open it. So, make sure you follow the steps for the lab. Did you download the lab already? Open it. Okay, so now open this up. And it should run. Okay? All right, but look at step part B and then.
So, sorry, bus 001 device 001 Linux root, is that, so, is that's not like anything plugged in, again,
That's a virtual system.
a virtual.
So what they do is they actually write device drivers for the software to see it as a port. It's a logical port,
Okay,
but it is tied to a physical port. So it's still tied to the physical hardware. So when before I can enable, I'm gonna show you now. I can enable the USB, right? By going, and some of you already learned this when you were in my other class. You can go here, right? You can specify which USB you want to connect, okay? And then what happens is once that happens, when you enable the USB that you want here, so let's say if I plug in a USB, it's going to allow the system to see it on the inside. So it's still gonna use the actual bus from the physical USB of the system on the outside, but it needs to identify that as a USB on the inside.
okay,
So they mapped it that way,
yeah.
yes.
I got confused here, it says the CIS25.
Oh, yeah, it's 27, sorry. Okay, moving on. I know it's like we got 20 minutes left, so I gotta hurry up. All right, so we can do the same thing with IP addresses, right? So you're gonna do IP address and iNet stuff is old for the old package. Everything now is IP address for all Debian release. And we're gonna point it to IP address. Oops, log. And you can do the same thing to read it. So to read it, you can do cat IP address .log, and we are gonna grep, which is allowing us to filter, and we're gonna do an iNet. So iNet really pertain to the IP address in Linux, and what that does is it's gonna condense it to a few lines for you, because if you do the command IP address like this by itself, see how long that is? But if you put it into a file and filter it, there's less information to look at, right? So you have a version 4 IP address, which is the 10.0.2.15, which is default for our virtual machine. It's a loopback address. It sees itself, right? So when you ping yourself, you're able to see that. Here, you have an iNet 6, a version 6 address, but there's no prefix route. And then there's an iNet 6 address with the scope for the link. So what you see is those are the addresses, and that goes into your log file. So in the case, if you start looking for information, like when we're doing recon for servers or putting together server information, you can also pull up your IP address information. So it asks you, what is the IP version for? This is the number. So 10.0.2.15. And then if you look it up, it's like a purple number. So through the IP. So we're gonna look at the F0. So we can say that 10.0.2 .15, and it is a 32-bit octet number. Now, what we're gonna do is we are going to make a folder on the desktop, right? I do this with CIS25 class as well, because making sure that they know how to do directory. So CD, desktop. That means that we're gonna open up the desktop directory, so that way it's gonna add it to our current location. It's the same thing as CD desktop in Windows. Okay, so you notice my path change now, right? That's important to look at where you are. And then I'm gonna make a folder called CIS27. So mkdir, same command in Windows, make directory CIS27. And that's gonna be on my desktop of my virtual machine, right? If you're not sure, you can always do ls, which is list, and it shows, oh, there's a folder that she made right here, right? And then inside that folder, I'm going to access it now by doing a cd command, CIS27. So see how I'm now inside that folder, inside my desktop? And then I'm going to make a file. So you can also use cat command to make files, but you can also use a touch command to make files, okay? So when you're using a touch command, you just need to do the file name in one shot, right? So we're gonna do touch file1.txt, and then space file2.txt. So we're gonna do a text file called file1 and another text file called file2, put it inside our CIS27 folder, right? So if I wanted to see where they are, I can do ls again, and there are my files. These are blank files, mind you, right? These are blank files. Now, if you're doing a cat command, it's gonna want you to append text to the file as you make it. So this is just gonna make a blank file for me. Okay. So now, right, I can edit my file. So Nano is going to be your good friend in Linux because it's allowing you, it's a text editor. You can write script in it. You can, edit text with it. So you're going to do sudo apt-get install Nano. I think it's already equipped with Kali. So it tells you, oh, it's there already. Nothing is installed. It's done. So we can say yes here. What we're gonna do is we are going to edit these two files using Nano. Okay. The reason why I go over this is in the future, labs and classes, when you have me, right, we're gonna need to know these basic things. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, open up text editor and do this. You should know how, right? So we're gonna do Nano text file1. And for your job, you can write Python script in a few lines through Nano and then run it. So I'm going to edit file1. It has nothing in it now. And then we can say this is file1. This is test1. Okay. So once we put in the sentence, we're going to do Control X to exit, and it asks us, do you want to save this? Press Y for yes to save and enter. And it walks you through the steps here for 19. And we're going to repeat the same thing. Now, the trick is if you up arrow key, it's going to repeat the last command, and I can just use the arrow key to move my cursor, and I change up the 1 to the 2, and voila, I already have the next command. Right? So up arrow key, repeat the command, and you can modify that command using the arrow key. And then you can say, for the second file, this is test2, right? Control X, yes, enter. And you have two files. What text. Now, if I want to read file one now, I can do a cat file one dot txt, and it tells me, oh, here's the content, right? Cat allows you to read the content of the text file or the log file.
Can
Just
you
read
leave
the
the
text.
parentheses? This is the test one.
You don't, yeah, you don't need the, you don't need the quotation mark. Okay, so once we read the file, we're gonna do the same thing with text two, up arrow key, move your cursor to the file name, change that to 2, press enter, and you got it. So this is test 2. So ultimately, these basic things need to come like brushing your teeth, taking a shower, right? Second nature in security, because if you put on your resume that you know Linux and you know command line, right? They expect you to know the simple things like making files, making directories, getting a list of IP addresses, reading logs, using cat, knowing how to access menu. You can do a man page, right? So Linux, get a cheat sheet from Google or AI. It's going to give you all the basic simple Linux command and practice it. Dr. Wynn is only going to give you like, how to use your training wheels, but you're going to be the one that's going to ride your bike and take off that training wheel, okay? Because one lab, you're going to do this, the next lab is going to be another thing, but you have to practice. This is not something that I just learned overnight and I'm good at it, right? It's something that you have to keep on using, okay? All right, the 23, we're going to use a different command called echo. And echo allows you to make the file and put text in it at the same time, similar to cat. So we're going to do an echo. And in this command, you need to put the quotation mark. You're going to say, this is test 3, right? And we are going to point it to the file name, file3.txt, okay? So can I write some short program using these commands? Sure. Can I use Nano to do that? Sure. Everything that you need to do can be done in Linux terminal or Windows command prompt, or if you're using Apple, the terminal in Apple is great, very similar to this. They share similar commands. Okay. All right. So if I want to read file 3, I can simply do a cat file3.txt, right? Because I just made it in the last line using echo. And my cheat way of remember this, if you know Spanish, hecho is like I made, right? Echo is made with a pen. So I can make a file using echo, or echo is to relay sound or relay text into a file, right? So that's a way that you can remember. Remember, we can cat a file with the arrow to make, cat to read, echo to make a file in a pen text, and touch to make blank files, right? And then edit it with a text editor. So when we do a cat command, we can read it, but a cat with an arrow is going to make a file and it lets you edit the content. Okay, so now we're going to do an ls, and it shows I have file 1, file 2, and file 3. That's what I need. I'm almost running out of time, so 8:30, I got 10 minutes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to copy file. Okay, so take a screenshot for 25. And what you can do is you don't have to copy all of the files, but you just need to put the one that you want to copy. So CP is copy file1.txt, file2.txt. Oops, I have a typo. .txt. Callie is cool because it bolds it for you if you're right. File3.txt. And we're going to put it into the destination directory or folder called temp, or TMP, okay? So you can copy, which is going to be where home, where you are, and then place it into your temp folder. And then we're gonna go ahead and do CD, and we're gonna access the TMP, right? Notice the path changed. We went from our own folder that we made on the desktop now to TMP. And we're gonna do a list. And it shows, right? Oh, there's my files that I copy and paste. So Linux is way better than Windows in that CP commands move everything. Instead of Windows, you're gonna have to select, right? But also Windows does have a copy command as well. And then you can also do a shadow copy. Okay. Now, what we're gonna do is we are going to, after you screenshot and answer the question, do you see it? Yes. If you did everything, you should see it. Screenshot. And then we're gonna look at permissions, right? Earlier I mentioned that you can find permission in Linux. So we're gonna do an ls-l file3.txt. We're only gonna look at one. Okay. So we have a read, write, and read. Okay, there's 3 levels in Linux. Okay, you got your user, your group, and your global, your world. Okay, so everyone can see, right? But the user themselves can read or write. That means that they can open the file and then change and save the file or delete the file. Okay, so what is your owner permission? RW. What's your group permission? The next one, RW, the middle. Remember? User or owner, group, and global or world, right? Everybody else. So think of it like you, yourself, family, right? And then everybody else in the world. So me, group that I'm in, and the world. Okay. And here it gives you a little bit more about permissions, and I screenshot some of the stuff, right? What you can change for write, what you can do for read, and then if you see the X or the dash, that's execute. Okay, earlier we talked about chmod. This is where we see it now. Okay. So we're gonna do a sudo chmod, and what we're gonna do is we are going to modify the permission of the file3 for our group. Okay, this is the area that a lot of security specialists do, right? Or even the technician. They ask you to modify permissions for things, and you can do it a batch at a time or individually. So we're gonna do a sudo chmod. Remember, we have to elevate the privilege, and you're gonna do a g equal r and file3.txt because that's the file you want to change. And if no error, life is great, right? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna modify the text, the file2.txt for execute. Okay, so sudo chmod, and we're gonna do a x file2.txt. So can we look at the changes now that we made for the permissions? Yes. Right? So you can do LSL. I would do LSL in general. You can do it individually, like the lab instruction. I'm going to do that. So we can see that the file2, we changed that, right? You have that for execute. Remember, it noted at the dash, and then the file3. And then we modify our group. Remember, it was read, write. Now it's only read. So it worked. And screenshot, right? So what did we learn today? We learned how to use command in Linux. I usually start with the basic like this, and we'll get a little bit more advanced. We learned how to create log files, We learned how to read log files, we learned how to create folders, we learned how to edit your text files, and then change the permission of your files inside your directory. So that's just to warm you up. And then when you're done with Linux, right, don't just X the window out and call it a day, right? Be nice to it. Type shut down now. So virtual machines, you gotta close it from the software level, close it out from the inside, shut it down like a regular computer, and then, exit out this, okay? But it's always gonna be on the playlist as long as you have that there historically. So at home, right, sometimes I would have 4 virtual machines running at once. It depends on the processor you have and the RAM you have, right? So, okay. So once we're done, submit it on Canvas. You don't have to do it today. And then let me stop recording. Hey, I'm on time.